Today I'll be doing a Pokemon Sword and Shield slash Pokemon 2019 anime review. So I'll be doing an overview review of the first 19 episodes so far. So I've wanted to start reviewing the series since the beginning. I thought about doing it around episode 9 or so, but I've just never had the time to. But since we're all, I guess, not busy and indoors right now, I figure I start reviewing the series, and I wanted to get up to date with my reviews first before I started episode 20. So I thought I'd do an overview review of every episode of the series so far. So in this, I'll talk about give my brief thoughts on the first 19 episodes so far. I won't go into depth like a regular review. I'll just talk about my favorite parts of the episodes, the plot, what I thought of the episode, and what it could possibly mean going forward. So, episode 1 is called Pikachu is Born, and episode 1 was a pretty good episode overall. It was Pikachu's flashback from when it was a Pichu and being raised by Kangaskhan. Khan. And I thought it was nice to get an introduction to Go in this episode as well. And the way they were able to tell the story with Pikachu and Kangaskhan Khan without them actually talking was pretty good as well. My favorite part of the episode was definitely Pikachu evolving and leaving Kangaskhan Khan so that it doesn't have to worry about him anymore. And I also really like that we got Go's perspective, the I guess secondary or the Ash's companion for the series. And we got his perspective of when he was a kid and when he was in the same forest that Pichu was in. And we got to see him and Koharu, and they met Professor Oak at a Pokemon summer camp that Ash overslept for. And we also learn where Go's interest in Mewtwo comes from when he says he wants to get an amazing Pokemon someday that no one else ever has. So I thought that was a pretty good episode overall and a nice intro into the series. Usually they come in two-part episodes, but this one was just a standalone episode for episode 1, and it was a flashback, so that was a nice change of pace in my opinion. And since Kangaskhan is in Kanto, I wonder if we'll possibly see it again later. Also, that first episode confirms that Pikachu isn't Red's Pikachu or anything like that. It was just a Pikachu Professor Oak found while he was walking through the forest. So, episode 2 was called Ash and Go Aboard Lugia They Go. So, right off the bat, my favorite thing about this episode was right at the beginning with them showing all of Ash's awards from Kanto to Alola, his top 16 in the Kanto League, all his gym badges, and the Frontier symbols. Them showing his continuity is probably the best thing they could have done to start the series because with Sun and Moon, we have no idea what was going on with that. The only time we had confirmation of continuity is when we saw Brock and Misty. That's the only time I remember them confirming continuity within the series. So the episode was about Ash getting invited to Professor Sakuragi's new lab in Kanto. And while there, Ash and Professor Oak find out that Lugia is appearing somewhere, so Ash heads there to the location. And I thought it was cool seeing Ash and other trainers attempt to battle Lugia and what appeared to be the first raid battle of the series. Then we also get Ash and Go's meeting while trying to board Lugia, and I thought that was pretty cool. That was probably Ash's coolest way of meeting one of his friends. And during that time, Go accepts Ash as his friend and introduces himself. And later on, Professor Sakuragi asks Ash to become a research fellow slash lab assistant in his lab, and Ash accepts along with Go, so they become roommates. That episode was pretty good. It was a perfect intro to the present day series, I guess what's going on now. And we also learned what Ash plans on doing, or what he is going to be doing throughout this series instead of his usual journey around from the entire region or school in Alola. We also got to see present day Goen Koharu, like I was saying, and this was overall a great start to the series. I'm hoping we get more raid battles later on. We only get one or two more later on, I think, in the series. And I'm wondering if it'll become a more frequent thing, possibly later. But yeah, this episode started off pretty good, and these first two episodes were a nice intro to the series so far. So episode 3 is called Oh So Mysterious Ivysaur. So we get Ash and Go get their Rotom smartphones and then set out to investigate Ivysaurs that are walking around town. We also get Team Rocket's into the series and their meeting with Giovanni, where he asks them what their purpose is and what their ultimate goal is. And that conversation ends with Giovanni saying he has some secret weapon. I'm wondering if Team Rocket's making their comeback in this series, like in Univo. Anything's possible, but seemingly they're just being their normal selves. I'm not getting that Univo Team Rocket vibe. but I guess we'll have to wait and see what he means by ultimate weapon later on. Either way, I think that's foreshadowing for something, or it's just the writers adding in a badass line to get us hyped for Team Rocket for whatever reason. But that aside, Ash and go to investigate and end up helping out an Ivysaur. But at first, Ghost says that you should just let it help itself because if you don't, that'll be the end of the line for them. And Ash says he wants to help them, help anyone if he sees them in trouble. He calls Go calls Ash helping them human conceit. This is probably one of the most interesting storylines, or I guess plot line in the episode, and that would be helping a Pokemon or just letting it adapt by itself. And with that conversation alone, you get a pretty good idea that Ash and Go see things pretty differently. And throughout the series, we learn that Go uses more logic while Ash thinks with his heart because he's an emotional thinker. And I think it's a nice contrast to have these two sort of characters who are going to be traveling and journeying with each other throughout the series. Usually, Ash's friends are on the same page as him, but Go seemingly is providing another perspective because Ash's friends, like I said, are usually on his side or learn to understand how he's thinking or they meet some middle ground. But instead, it seems like Ash and Go will provide each other with different perspectives on certain situations. And at one point during the episode, Ash says he doesn't want to be Go's friend or vice versa. And Go says that, oh, so I see you're one of those guys. And I think that's the writers giving us a bit of insight into Go's past. Maybe he was abandoned by people he thought were his friends. And he referred to Ash in a way to where it seems like Ash was doing the same thing to him. So I hope we get more on that later, but I think this was a pretty good episode overall. And them giving us a brief insight into what Go is like made it even better. So episode 4 is called Let's Go to the Gallery Region, a meeting with Score Bunny. So the title is pretty much all the summary you need. Ash and Go head to the Galar region to find out about Dynamax Pokemon, and while they're there, they run into Score Bunny, who leads a team of Nitwick, or I guess a gang of Nitwick, and they steal from Ash and Go. And when Go catches up to Score Bunny, he tells Score Bunny not to give up and that the world is huge, and if you want it enough, you can go anywhere and meet all sorts of people. So at the end of the episode, Score Bunny leaves his crew and joins Go, who heads to the wild area with Ash. This episode was nothing crazy special, just Go getting or meeting what would eventually become his first Pokemon. And so this episode just felt like more of a segue into that. I guess since we're at episode 4, I guess I'll give this one a rating of like a 6 out of 10. Nothing bad, but nothing extremely good happened. Just more of a segue episode, so I can't really complain. So, episode 5, Snorlax grows giant, the mystery of Dynamax. So, Ash and Go get to the wild area and find a Snorlax that can Gigantamax, and then Score Bunny meets Go and asks to join, but Go says no, because Go had a goal. His goal was for his first Pokemon to be Mew, which to me sounded cool when I first heard it, and through the first 4 episodes, but then I thought about it and was like, wait, I know the anime doesn't use game logic, but I'll be damned if you don't need a battle Mew with another Pokemon to catch it. Plus, Go saw how strong Mew was when it was a kid, so I don't know what he was thinking. But after that, we see the first Gigantamax Pokemon in the anime, and it seems like it just happens naturally to Pokemon. We don't really get that kind of explanation in the game, so that was nice to see. So Ash and Go battle Gigantamax Snorlax. Go teams up with Score Bunny, and then Go decides to catch Score Bunny in the end, making it his first catch of the series and his partner Pokemon. That was a really nice episode, seeing the build up, then the payoff with Go catching Score Bunny. And this was our first time in the Galar region in the series, so pretty good episode overall. I'd give it a 7 to a 7.5 out of 10. Now for episode 6. I got lots of Pokemon Road to Mew. I know a lot of people didn't like this episode because Go was able to catch everything he caught with no problem. I also had a problem with it because he didn't show us any reason or any like special ability, like he has skill. And he barely wanted to catch his first Pokemon in the last episode, and seemingly in this episode, he's catching Pokemon with no problem without using any special skill or bonding with them like Ash would. He just caught them like the original motto, gotta catch 'em all, was made for him. And that was the premise of the whole episode, Go just catching lots of Pokemon. And by the end of the episode, he ended up with all the bug type Pokemon in Kanto. I didn't really enjoy how quickly he caught the Pokemon, so that kind of bothered me when watching the episode, but that episode, I guess, I don't really know what to think of it, so I'm not going to really give it a rating, because if I did, it would probably have to be like a 5 or something. But let's just move on to the next episode. Episode 7, Fierce Battles in the Hoenn region face the Battle Frontier. I thought this episode was pretty cool. Ash just pops up and tells Go, let's go to the Battle Frontier, and takes him to the Battle Frontier. And it's actually different than the one he competed in back in his Battle Frontier days in Kanto. This one here on the Battle Frontier Island, the Battle Resort, I think the tournament is called the Battle Frontier Glass Flute Cup, which seemed pretty cool. Ash signed up Go without asking him. And even though Go isn't sure if he liked Pokemon battles, and Go ends up losing in the first round due to his lack of experience, which makes him think that catching is better than battling anyway. So Ash tells him to watch his battle, and Ash sweeps through the tournament, making it to the finals easily. I'm glad he did, because he's the first champion of Alola. And I thought Ash using Mr. Mime in battle was pretty cool. I wasn't expecting him to use a Psychic type. And seeing Ash make use of its Psychic type abilities and moves was pretty awesome. Got to see a different battle style from Ash, which I hope we get more of in the series. And during the final battle with Holgi is where Go really got to understand what it means to have a Pokemon battle. And the battle was better than most in the Alola League, to be honest. And Ash ended up winning, and Go learned why battles are fun. He also caught some Wurple at the end of the episode. I really liked this. My favorite moment of this episode was probably the final battle with Hoji, which I thought was pretty good. Ash and Pikachu working in tandem together was nice to see again. So this was an alright episode. I really liked the return to the Hoenn region. And so I guess I give this episode a 7 in my opinion. So episode 8 was called Don't Lose Piplup, the Sinnoh Drift Ice Race. So to be honest, this episode was boring and possibly skippable in the long run to me. I hardly even remember it even after re-looking at the episode. And Sinnoh is my favorite region by far. And it's not even that I set high expectations for this episode. I just wasn't interested in my opinion. And I don't think it'll have a long-lasting impact throughout the series. There were clear references to Brock with the Krogunk and then donned Piplup with its personality. I think the only major thing that happened in this episode was Go getting his first Sinnoh Pokemon, Mantine, I believe it was. But I did enjoy seeing the concept of some random competition being held in some random town for whatever reason. Well, this wasn't a random town, it was Snow Point City. But one of my favorite old running gags in Pokemon, from Kanto all the way till, I don't even know, Alola, is them entering some random competition that isn't in the game, and then Ash just winning it or somebody winning it. An example would be like Gary with his Arcanine back in that racing episode in Kanto and Johto, or in Sinnoh with that flying competition with Ash versus Paul, where Staraptor or Staravia evolved into Staraptor and learned close combat. I still remember that episode clearly, and even though I enjoyed the aspect of the concept, there was no rival in this episode because Ash doesn't have one in the series so far. And I don't really think this episode, like I was saying earlier, is going to contribute to anything significant later on. So I guess I'd give it a 5 out of 10 just to be nice. So, episode 9, The Vow That Day, the Johto region's legend, Ho-Oh. Another accurate title once again. So, this episode was about Ash and Go, who head out to Ecruteak City in Johto to learn about the mysteries of Ho-Oh, and Go wants to catch it and Ash wants to battle it. And this is probably the first time since the Battle Frontier where Ho-Ho's actually appeared in the anime, because the last time we saw it is when I guess when Ho-Ho appeared before May after Ash lost his first battle to Brandon in Pokelantis. We've also had it appear via flashback and in the episode Gotta Catch You Later when Brock and Misty say goodbye to Ash. So Ash has really only seen Ho-Ho twice in the entire history of the anime, and I thought we were going to get a third time this episode, but I guess not, because this episode was mainly about an old man who had a dream of seeing Ho-Ho when he was a kid but gave up on it, and his grandson Kurio tried to help him prove that Ho-Ho does exist. And by the end of the episode, his grandpa sees Ho-Ho again and says that it does exist. So despite not seeing Ash not seeing Ho-Ho in this episode, I don't think it was a bad episode. Ho-Ho is probably the most iconic legendary Pokemon in the history of the anime, just because of what it means to Ash and the start of his journey. So if it's going to reappear for Ash, it shouldn't just be in one of these one-off episodes. So I'm not too mad at it not appearing in this one. This episode was okay for what it was, but didn't add anything major to the plot, so I guess I'd give it a 4. And so I think I'll split this overview review into 2 parts, just so the video doesn't get too long. So this will be part 1. The next one will cover episode 10 through 19 in part 2. So thanks for watching this part. I hope you'll watch the next one. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share for part 2. It'll probably come out after this video for sure, because I'm definitely covering, I want to get this part 2 of this video out before the next Boruto episodes come out, so it'll come out right after this video. Anyways, like, subscribe, share. Thanks for watching, and bye.